Hey guys, welcome back to the Route 281 podcast. I'm your host, Tim Ladich. This is episode 40. If you haven't done so already, take a second, subscribe to the channel on YouTube or follow us on Spotify. Leave us a comment, hit the like button. I hate to say that, but it really does help the show. I greatly appreciate it. Today's episode is with Nate Weimer. Nate has served in the Pennsylvania Army National Guard as a specialist with a deployment to Afghanistan. He's a graduate of the Somerset School District, and I am grateful to spend some time with him today. He shares his experience in the military and his experiences coming back home, dealing with some adversity, and ultimately overcoming. So we are grateful for his vulnerability and willingness to share with us. I hope you enjoy the episode. Nate Weimer, thank you. Well, it's hard to believe, but it's May. The kids are about to be out of school, and summer's right around the corner. So if you've started thinking about taking a summer vacation but haven't had the time to plan for it, call Lindsay at Quiet Waters Travel. I'll put the link in the description to her Facebook page and her website. She'll help you take care of all the planning and help you and your family make those memories that are so important and that last a lifetime. So check out Lindsay at Quiet Waters Travel today.
And a few years ago, actually it was about a year and a half, I really hit a rock bottom and reached out to a buddy of mine, Delaney. He's a state trooper. I don't know if you know him.
I heard his last name.
So I was just really struggling, and he got me in contact with Joe Kozak, who then they took me to the emergency room, and I had to deal with crisis. And that is where my life has really gone in a much better direction than it was before. It was just mental health has been an issue for a long time, but Joe and Delaney played a huge part in that.
Oh, really?
So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. So I have a lot of thanks for people like him.
Yeah.
Because he took time out of his day to say, "Hey, let's talk, and then let's get you some help." Wow. So since then, I kind of hit the ground running with getting involved with Wounded Warrior, and then being able to get involved with people that have similar stories to mine. It's been huge.
Has it been better?
My God, yeah, tenfold. And that's not something I'm shy about. I've been sober for almost 10 years in October, and I just dealt with a lot of trauma, a lot of things relating to combat, a lot of things relating to family deaths and things like that I held close. So yeah. It will come out, I'm sure, if we talk if we talk about it and things like that. So
we're rolling, but I can edit all that.
No, that's okay.
So what was it that? Maybe we can get into that, but has faith played a part in your journey at all?
To be honest with you, faith is something that for a long time I struggled with, because at first I blamed God for a lot of the things that had gone on that I had been put through, until about a year ago, where I realized he brought me through a lot of stuff. Yeah. So to be able to look at that statement and say, instead of blaming him and understanding what he brought me through, that was the eye-opener for me. And it was the weight truly got lifted at that point, because I was I spent so many years blaming God, not knowing if I deserved to be punished, or even to the flip side, not understanding if I'm able to be appreciated. Yeah. Because I had such a hard time seeing the good in myself, that I blame God for that. Yeah. And to be able to sit here and say, he brought me through it, I do see that I do have gifts. I have the ability to help people. I have the ability to put my time into things that are good for not only myself but my spirit, my soul.
Yeah.
And that is like, that was the eye opener for me.
Yeah.
And it was just, since then it's been very much like free sailing.
Yeah.
I'm able to.
Well, when you and if you are saved by grace, you know, which was why Christ died for us, so that we could be saved by grace, because there's nothing that we could do on our own to earn it. We have to just accept a gift that somebody would be willing to go and die on a cross, so that we could be in heaven with him forever. And when you accept that grace, the weight is lifted, because you think, oh, there's nothing good enough in me that I earned it, and there's nothing bad enough that I've ever done that he didn't die for that.
Right.
And when you get that, when that sinks in, it is like, you know, because guys carry weight sometimes, like mental, you know, we carry stress, we carry a lot, and especially, you know, a soldier, I'm sure the degree of the things that you see, you know, any type of trauma, whether you grew up in a family that was divorced, saw abuse, were abused, that stuff sticks with you. And I can't, you know, I can understand. And people say, when I hear people say that they get angry with God, like, I understand. And guess what? God's big enough. He can handle it. He's got big enough shoulders. If you've got something to say to him, say it, you know, but understand that, you know, he is the Alpha and the Omega. And he saw you before you went into those trials. And like you said, he'll see you after you come through them.
And that's something that you just touched on, is like understanding he knows what's coming.
Yeah.
Even though I'm trying to play checkers, he's playing chess.
Yeah.
You know, that's literally how I look at it. It's like,
his ways
he outsmarted me, and I thought I could get a quick one in, and I was like, well, that's wrong.
Yeah.
But that's another thing that I had to understand, is that conversation with God didn't have to be like hit your knees. It could be a solo conversation of, hey, what's going on here? You know, I've seen all these different kind of prayers, and I had to develop my own, because I thought, well, I see all these people praying this way, why can't I do it my way? And then I realized, like, that relationship with God for me is completely individualized.
It's personal.
Yes, not this way, or this way, but if this is how I can work with God and relate to God and understand what he's doing in my life, then I'm going to do it this way.
That's
perfect. Guess we can put these on.
Yeah, you can put them on. Got it.
There we go.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's a personal relationship. And, you know, I grew up in a Catholic church.
Okay.
And I'm not knocking Catholics. I know some great ones, and there's people that are totally sincere about their faith. But what I realized after I got saved was, this is a personal thing.
Yes.
This is not ritualistic. It's not religious. It's, you walk outside at night and you give glory to the God that created those beautiful stars up there and connect with him on that level. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's awesome. It can be as simple as that. That's what I love about it. Like, it could be as simple as last night we were on our way home from Berlin and there was a beautiful sunset. Mm-hmm. You can say, he made that. And I love it when my kids notice stuff like that and they see it and they'll bring it up. Wow, look at that sunset. And they know who made it. Yeah. You know, and it's just like that little bit of daily artwork that he blesses you with. And if you recognize that and realize it, that's a connection. It's a personal connection.
That's the same with, like, seeing a cardinal, right? So when I see a cardinal, I think of somebody that's passed on, whether it be grandparents, friends, things like that. And that's something I look at and I'm like, hi, Pop, or hey, Grandpa, things like that. But with that, the relationship with God, again, it took me some time to deal with that because I had to get over myself. Yeah. And I had to put my ego out of the way and say, you know what? My way didn't work because every time I tried it my way, things went really bad really quick. Yeah. And it only got worse over time. So at the point where I was like, you know what? Just help. Yeah. That's when, again,
that's the most simple prayer you can, and it's effective. Whenever whenever you die to yourself and accept help from the Lord, that's where you're usable.
Yes.
He can now shape you and mold you when you say, okay, what I've done doesn't work.
So going with that story, so in 2016, when I stopped drinking, stopped putting really bad substances in my body, I made the decision as an adult to be saved. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I had been attending First Christian Church in Somerset and spoke with the pastor at length, and I decided, you know what? As an adult, I'm going to make the conscious decision to be reborn.
That's awesome.
And that was something, and I still remember who was in the audience that day, so I'm going to shout out a few people, one of which is Sarah Costilla, now Sarah Rauch, and her husband, Matt. They've been a big part of my life for many, many years.
Yeah.
Dating back to junior high, senior high days. But, one story I will share about them is when I did deploy to Afghanistan in 2010, we got there right at the end of February, and there was already a letter waiting for me from Sarah, who had been a good friend of mine. And I don't remember what the letter said, but I do remember the stationery that it was on. It was black and white, and I just remember seeing that, and at that point I thought, you know what? That was something special to me that I will still hold on to. And I still have the letter today.
Yeah.
In fact, I might have to go dig that stuff out because I did receive a lot of mail and a lot of letters. And the other one I did remember receiving, it's kind of funny now, was a whole shoebox full of 5-hour energy drinks because, to be honest with you, that's kind of what we thrived on.
Yeah.
Because sometimes...
You're run ragged?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, that and water. But... that was from a friend of mine, Ryan Alpaus, and his wife, Elena. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned those two because at the time, in 2010, I was 22. And those two things I will remember forever.
Yeah.
Because I was how many miles away, people were still thinking of me, and I thought, that's pretty cool.
That is awesome.
Back to the faith thing, and I can start even around that time in 2010. We had deployed, and it was January. We left, I think it was January 6th or 5th. We left from Connellsville, and I remember it sinking in. We were getting loaded onto buses to go out to the state of Indiana to training, and that's when it dawned on me, this is real. This is, real life. Because a few months before... And I'll backtrack a little bit, so I apologize.
Yeah, I think for people who don't know and have never been there, to go and sign that paper and stand and take the oath and then get ready and get on that bus and head to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And so what is that like when you're boarding that bus, saying goodbye to Somerset County for, however long basic training is, 8-10 weeks, whatever it is?
So in total it was 6 months, but again, we spent 4 or 5 days out in Harrisburg at Fort Indian Town Gap to do kind of like a pre-basic training through the National Guard. That's what I was in. Mm-hmm. So we did that and had a little graduation ceremony, which my dad was able to attend and take me out for dinner before I got shipped off to Missouri. But I still remember getting on the bus, getting off the bus. It was probably 8 o'clock at night, but it felt like it was about 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
Because we had been traveling all day, and then that's when it hit. You stand there. It's the amnesty period where this is your real, the last chance you have. You either say I quit, or from this point on, this is it. So we went through all that, got rid of all our packages, and of course, I thought, well, I'll shave my head so I won't have to get a haircut. Well, that wasn't true. So there was a little bit of hair on my head. They still chopped it all off.
Yeah.
And I hear people say it all the time, but it is true. It was 8 weeks of basic training and I think 14 weeks of schooling, which they called AIT, for military police. And it was the one place that I had the most fun but could not laugh at.
Yeah.
Because I laughed one time, never did it again.
What were you laughing at?
So, in Missouri, the seasons change very quickly. Mm. And we had been marching through an ice storm. Well, I'm kind of in the middle of our whole company on the first squad, and the drill sergeant did a Looney Tune move where his feet started slipping, and then it was Yeah, not a good situation for me because I got singled out and then I got told to do what they called uniform drills, where I had to start out in PTs, then went to my ACUs, then I had to do my dress uniform at that time was Class A's, and then I had to go mop gear, which was for chemical attacks.
Yeah.
And they did that to me for about an hour until I could not move.
Yeah.
And then the drill sergeant looked at me, he goes, and I was in what they call the front-leaning rest. He made me look up and he goes, I bet you'll never laugh again. And at that point I knew he had me. Because I was like, oh, I'm going to regret this for a long time. And of course he singled me out after that every single time he could.
Sometimes if it's funny, it's funny.
I can't.
But then, you know what, it probably singled you out because you probably earned a little bit of respect after that by just going through that and not complaining, taking your punishment, taking your licks.
Well, that and the fact that my laugh kind of echoed through the walls at that point. I was not quiet about it.
Yeah.
There was no, there was no little snicker. It was
just came out.
Full belly laugh. Full belly.
That's funny.
But when I joined the Army in 2007, and because in between that I did work full time. Joined the Army, went through basic training, came home in the spring, and started drills in Johnstown. Loved my unit. I've been very fortunate to have served with some amazing leaders, some of which I'm still friends with today. So we did that, and then I continued to work full time, and then in 2008, we got deployed to, I say deployed, but we got sent to our Greensburg Armory to help deal with two things. Well, first of all was the G20 summit that was held in Pittsburgh. We were just kind of back up at that time just in case something were to happen and they needed not necessarily use of force or show of force, just extra support for those that were working downtown Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. So we did that for a good, I think we were there in Greensburg for about a week. And then the next year, 2000, I think it was 2009, we did President Obama's first inauguration in Washington, D.C. So we spent a few days in Harrisburg getting things set up, understanding what our mission was, which was literally at that point not even called crowd control. It was just merely showing people where they needed to go to get close to be able to see the inauguration. And I'll never forget it because it was, at the time, probably 10 degrees downtown Washington, D.C., and it was cold. The wind down there cut right through it, but it was an experience where I'm all about connection, and I got to connect with some people that I really hadn't before in my unit, and we became very close at the time. And it was an experience of a lifetime because I can say that I was in D.C. for that inauguration, which was, at the time, a very monumental experience.
Yeah.
So we did that, and then I think I got
being there for any inauguration would be pretty cool.
I think I got my dates mixed up, so this might need edited. But then in 2000, in late 2009 is when the G20 summit happened, and that's where they were getting ready to deploy. The 110th Infantry Division out of Connellsville was getting ready to deploy, and they were looking for volunteers. So I, along with at least 5 or 6 other people at that time, and my mom and dad are probably going to get mad at this, but that's when I decided to volunteer to deploy. Because I wanted to serve my country. I wanted to be part of something bigger than myself.
Yeah, that's what you signed up for.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a big part of my purpose today in life is I want to be a part of something bigger than myself. Mm-hmm. But at the time, I decided, you know what, I'm going to do this. So we got everything together. They got our names. And I'll never forget getting the call that we were deploying. I was actually at my grandma Weimer's out on 281 here. And we were having dinner for my dad. It was around his birthday. And I got the call on my little flip phone saying that I was selected to deploy to Afghanistan. And at that time, I didn't even tell anybody because I was like, I think I knew at that point that it was going to be a life-changing experience, and I was not hoping for the worst. Mm-hmm. I was just thinking, well, I finally get to do what I chose to do, and that is serve my country in a bigger capacity. So we went through all this pre-deployment training in Fort Indiantown Gap, where you had to do all the medical stuff. At 21, at 22 years old, you had to sign a will. Make those decisions. If something were to happen, what would you like to have? At that time, I had no idea the gravity of the situation. I truly didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So we did all that, and then we did what we called Operation Atlas, which was 2.5, 3 weeks of pre-deployment training where we were on the range doing different missions out in Fort Indiantown Gap again. Rifle qualifications. That's when I was selected as an M249 machine gunner. That was my weapon when we deployed. Still one of my favorite weapons to listen to this day.
Yeah.
But
how do you get selected for that? Because you were good at it?
No. I made fun of it because I thought, I was the smallest guy. I was 5'9", a buck.
I was gonna say
60
you
or
shot
70.
up or something because you're not a small guy.
No. So I was 5'9", a buck 60, and this thing probably weighed 15 pounds. So I was like, you guys, I think, did this on purpose. See me lugging this big thing around, but honestly, I felt comfortable with that in my hands.
Yeah.
Because I learned the weapon, I learned how to use it, I learned how dangerous it could be, obviously, with anything. But then we did all this training, got to come home for a couple weeks over Christmas break, and then left in early January for Camp Atterbury, Indiana, which is outside of Indianapolis. So we spent a few months there, about a month and a half, almost 2 full months, and deployed from there to head to Afghanistan, which in the interim we got to stop in Ireland for 2 days. Beautiful country. We weren't really allowed to leave the hotel, but to be able to walk outside and see the scenery, that is absolutely somewhere I would love to go visit again.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went into Manis Air Force Base, and then we flew from there we went into Afghanistan. We flew into Bagram first, and then down closer to where we would be stationed in Kandahar. Spent a few days in Kandahar, and then that's when we got our orders. We were getting picked up by the unit we were replacing. So we took a convoy. We were all in the back, and that was when it really hit that it was real life. Like, this is not a movie. This is like real life.
Can you describe what made you feel like this was real?
I think it was once we left the base in Kandahar, going outside the wire at that time, you were immediately immersed in the city, and you were seeing people for who they were. You were experiencing what a true third world country would look like, and it was very humbling to see how these people lived. So we got to our first duty station there, which was in Kalat City, Fob Smart. It was it was literally immersed in the city there, and I was selected to do the first mission the very next day. So of course, I thought it was a great experience, but I will be the first to admit I was a little nervous because at the time there were people following, driving down the middle of the street, and we were trained not to let that happen. So I'm like, oh, what is going on here? But, they just took us on a short little tour around the city, kind of like a presence patrol and things like that, and being able to see what the area looked like and kind of what we would be doing in that area.
Did they tell you what the mission was?
It was just literally like almost like the change of command, but it was just for us to get familiarized with the area around our base.
Okay.
So it was a very quick, very short patrol, presence patrol, and that's when I got my feet wet. That's when I was able to say, okay, well, I did it. I was able to complete a patrol in Afghanistan, and shortly after that, we were informed, my squad, that we would be separated to go to another area several miles down the road called Shajoy, and it was we called it Fire Base Brilliant after Fob Smart, but we ended up building our own little compound. in an area where there was not a lot of U.S. presence. There was not a lot of coalition there, and the Taliban at the time made it seem like they ran us out because there was a lot of attacks before we came in, and kind of made it look like things were not. Like it was leaning their way, not ours. So we got there and then started working on our base, started getting tents put up, and I'll never forget, and I'm not going to mention any names, but there was a major that told us, well, at least you're not living in tents in a parking lot, and we literally looked at each other, the 10 of us, and said, that's literally what we're doing. We have an Alaskan tent in a parking lot, and it was a running joke for the entire rest of the deployment.
At least you're not living in a parking lot.
Oh, we laughed and laughed about that, but that's where the true camaraderie came in, and we worked under some very, very intelligent human beings. One of which was, his name is Max Pappas. At the time, he was a captain. He was a West Point grad, airborne. He was a ranger. But as far as leadership ability, he was one of the greatest I've ever met. He was very down to earth. He would explain things. He would take time to explain why we're doing things the way we did. And that's when I started to realize, like, this is what the brotherhood looks like for me. This is what a friendship looks like for me. So we got through, we started doing missions out there. And that's when the first time we really got indirect fire. So we were sitting in our tent, just hanging out, actually no mission that day. And all of a sudden you hear the noise that is something that is very peculiar. And the first time we got attacked, it was like all hands on deck. Scared, worried, but the natural instinct kicked in of get your gear on, get to your post. So that's what we did. And it became a daily thing every day. Because, again, we were a new force. They watched us come in, and they were trying to, I think, scare us away. So here's where my story kind of changes a little bit. I get to go home on leave over Memorial Day and do that. I get home after being attacked on Kandahar Air Force Base. They attacked the what they called the boardwalk, as well as trying to attack the planes coming in and out. But they did what they call a takeoff, like a combat takeoff, where it was a very short runway and straight up. So we got off, we got home. I was able to get home on time, and I'll still never forget, my dad was able to pick me up in Pittsburgh that day. And I was never so thankful to see somebody, and I think he understood where I was coming from because I didn't really say much, and I just wanted to go home. Be with family, be with friends. So I got home, was able to hug my dad, go see my mom at work, see my aunt, then stop and see my Uncle Randy, who lived in town. He was off that day, so I got to see him quick. And then the next 2 weeks were honestly kind of a blur. I spent a lot of time with family, but I also spent a lot of time drinking. And it didn't dawn on me at that time because I justified it. I was very good, and still can be very good at justifying very crappy behavior. So I have to catch myself. But at the time, I just justified it. But get back to Afghanistan, and the day I flew back in is the day two of my best friends were killed. Sergeant First Class Robert Fike and Sergeant First Class, he was awarded the promotion after death, Brian Hoover. Both Pennsylvania residents at the time. They both had a very good career going, one of which was working for the state corrections institutions out near Erie. The other one was...
They got killed in Afghanistan?
Yes, they did. Suicide bomber.
On the base where you were? Or?
It was during what we called a routine patrol, and a child about 8 or 9 years old walked in the middle of the patrol and blew themselves up. because I think what it was is they knew our rules of engagement at the that time. We were not allowed to search or do anything with the females, so they were dressed in female garb and walked in the middle of our patrol. Wow. I'll never forget this because on my birthday then, 3 days later, I had to stand in front of our entire platoon and other people that were there and give a speech about the two individuals. So I tried to make it light, but unfortunately emotions got the best of me because they were two people that I was extremely close to. Yeah. Two people that I respected. Maybe picked on a little bit because that was our nature of...
Yeah, right.
That was kind of the nature of the beast. Sarcasm is a language we speak.
You have to have that over,
Yes.
In tough times, no matter where you're at, that's part of the, just that camaraderie. If you're able to do that, it's a closeness that...
Humor got us through a lot.
Yeah.
But the one thing I will say is, even immediately after that, we were right back at it. We were back on patrol.
So you went back?
Yeah. Right back into it because and I understand it now, but at the time, obviously, at 22 or 23 years old, I was angry. I felt a lot of emotions, but now looking at it, I understood why they did what they did, because you don't want those feelings to become overwhelming with somebody. So we got back out there, and like I said, that at that time I knew that changed my life. Because that's not something everybody experiences. And those two are still a big part of my life today. I wear this bracelet here. It's the KIA bracelet. I also have a tattoo on my left shoulder. And then, it's my way of remembering them every day. And they're a big part of my story even today because sometimes I have to remind myself of who's watching over me. And it's those guys. So I don't want to do anything to make them mad because what if it comes to the day where I have to answer to them up there? They're probably going to be like, "Hey, that was not okay. That's not what we wanted from you." Mm-hmm. It's sarcasm, it's humorous, but it's the way I have to look at things.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's some accountability from people you respected.
Yeah.
And I think we live our life to try and honor, somebody that we respected.
Yeah, and
whether they're still here or not, you're like, oh, would that person be proud of me right now?
And that's a big part of my life, even still today, is being able to say, all right, this person would be proud of me. This person might be disappointed in me right now because I kind of acted foolish. But we did manage to get through the rest of that deployment. We came home November 12th, 2010. Again, one of those days I'll never forget. And the other thing that I know changed for me is I was always kind of extroverted. I always enjoyed being around people. So my mom messaged me, I think it was on Facebook or email, and asked what I wanted to do when I came home. All I wanted at the time, loved beer, obviously. So I wanted a case of Moosehead Lager and a bottle of Southern Comfort and a pack of smokes and just be left alone. Now that didn't happen because I went and visited my family who was in town at the time. I got to see my dad's side of the family at the tavern, hung out with them a little bit. And obviously when I came home, I got to see my mom, my stepdad, my younger brother, my grandparents, and my aunt were all there when I and I got to see everybody. But that's when I knew something changed because I immediately wanted to start drinking. Something was off. And again, I justified it saying I'd been without alcohol and I missed out on a lot, but I started drinking pretty much every day. Mm-hmm. And that took over my life. And I could open and close a bar, it didn't matter to me. And it was just the repeated cycle for months and months. And I made a lot of bad decisions. I hurt a lot of people. I've made a lot of mistakes throughout that part of my life. I started to not only drink, but then I was prescribed a medication for anxiety. So not realizing it, I was becoming addicted, for one, but number two, a walking time bomb. Because those two together were a very dangerous thing. Mm-hmm. Two of the hardest drugs to actually detox from is something that I was reliant on every single day to function. At the time, when the addiction really started to give me consequences, I was working for the state. I was working at SCI Somerset and really made a huge mistake by stealing from a local organization. And honestly, I don't remember it. I remember the next day. I remember the cops showing up. I stole a lot of money and wasn't even able to uncover all the money. But I gave the money remaining to the cops. And even at that time, I didn't care. What I know now is...
Well, it's May, and it's deck season. And if you don't have one, chances are you want one. And as a contractor, the place I go to get my customers the best products is SDC Building Center in Somerset. They've got a full line of composite decking, treated decking. They've got all the railings, so you can have a completely customized job. They're great to work with in there. The customer service is great, and these people actually know what they're talking about. They'll help you find exactly what you're looking for. So head into SDC Building Center in Somerset today.
That I was on a path to not really care if I lived or died. I remember saying out loud to people that I had no intentions on seeing the age of 30. Because this all happened, I was 28, 27.
Were you out of the service at that time?
Yeah, at that time, yeah. Mm-hmm. It was not...
So your first job after leaving the service was...
state prison.
Correctional officer there?
Yeah. And I did.
That's a typical pathway for military police.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it becomes a pattern for me as I threw a lot of good opportunities away. And that's something that today I don't do.
Yeah.
It's something like I've learned about myself is don't throw the opportunity away because you never know what it's going to present for you. Yeah. And that's something that I took to heart now. But at the time, I didn't care. So I knew charges were coming. So I went to treatment in Somerset. And I met a lot of amazing people there that I'm still friends with today. Whether they're counselors or in different roles, I still have a lot of people that I can connect with, even if things get rough today. If I'm having a bad day, I know I can pick up the phone and call somebody and say, I just needed to chat. And they, 9 times out of 10, would say, let's talk.
Yeah.
But went through the treatment process. This is where my story takes a pretty dark turn, though. And so the night before I was to go to court for these charges, I decided to, because I remembered that I had these pills in my car. I couldn't sleep. I was very restless. It was January of 2016, and I was extremely restless, and so I took a few pills and didn't feel anything, so I took a few more. And in that time, apparently posted something on Facebook that I do not recall, and I'm going to shout out to another friend, Kayla. She knows who she is. I hope she does get to hear this. But apparently this message sent a red flag to her, and she had then contacted my mom. I don't remember any of this, but what I do remember is waking up in the 4th floor of the Somerset Hospital. Not sure what was going on. When I woke up and looked over, my mom was sitting right next to me, and this is something that I share often because it's something I'd never want to do again. My mom looked at me, sobbing, said I didn't know what else to do. They had brought me to the hospital, the emergency room. I had apparently had a conversation on the phone with one of the guys I deployed with, stating that I was just tired of fighting. I was tired of battling everything. I was tired of just the everyday fight. So I did that. And I stayed in the psych ward for a week, came out, and still wasn't ready. I tried to get re-engaged with 12-step fellowships and re-engaged with communicating with people around me. And I did well for a little bit and then fell apart again until that fall, October 2nd of 2016, I'll never forget it. I reached out to a good friend of mine and said, I need help. I'm going to become homeless. I'm losing everything. I'm drinking again. And this person took me in to he was working on creating like a rehab facility, almost like a halfway house out in Acosta. Mm-hmm. His name's Bob Walters. He took me in, and from that day on, like, that's when I realized this is it for me, because I'd faced the jails, I'd faced the institutionalized, and I knew the last path for me was death. And that's when I realized that my life has more meaning. Even though we talked earlier about recent battles, but somehow I've, again, saved by the grace of God. So I got to do all that. I was able to re-engage with a 12-step fellowship, started getting closer to people that had significant amounts of time without substance and things like that, and that had what I wanted in life. They had peace, they had tranquility, they were able to carry themselves, they were able to be successful, and balance things, because balance is not something I was ever good at. So I got re-engaged in that, and it's been an adventure, and that's when I decided, as we discussed earlier, that's when I decided to get baptized. And it was a decision I made as an adult.
Yeah.
And I was able to say, you know what, this is me redeveloping that relationship with God that was so severed, because I couldn't blame myself, because my pride and ego got in the way. So I started to blame God and say, it was your fault. Why am I getting put through this? And then I had to change that verbiage around and say, I got brought through this. I experienced some trauma, but I got brought through this. And it was just one thing after another. Like, I had to fight a lot of battles. I had to deal with a lot of trauma. I had to deal with a lot of mental health issues and things like that. So it's been nothing but a blessing, to be honest with you. Because what's that?
That's an amazing testimony, honestly.
It's just, the biggest part now, though, is, we talked at the beginning about having the ability to be open about it right now is something that is a blessing for me, because there was a time that there's no way.
Yeah.
And most importantly, I would have never thought that my story was worth hearing until I realized, like, it's not about me. It's about somebody else that may need to hear something, or it's about somebody else that needs to do what I did and kind of lace up the bootstraps and get to work.
Well, that's incredibly brave and vulnerable. So thank you for being vulnerable enough to share, because you're right. Somebody may hear this and didn't know that about you, or didn't know what they needed to do in order to get better. But yeah, I'll say you served in the military to serve your country, but what you just shared may help a fellow countryman just as much.
And that's kind of where I'm at now in life, is giving back, because I took so much.
Yeah.
I took advantage of people, and I don't want to focus on that now. My focus is on what can I do to help somebody else? Yeah. What can I do to give back? And that's where I'm at in my life today, is being able to say, you know what? I want to be a part of this, because, again, it's something bigger than myself, whether it's Wounded Warrior or Hometown Hero or anything like that. It's something that's bigger than me, mm-hmm. because it's something that I believe in. Yeah. I'm passionate about. Yeah. When it comes to Wounded Warrior Project or Wounded Warrior, Walt Pyatt is a Somerset County guy. He is the CEO of it, and probably one of the most influential people outside of my family in my life. and he has been nothing but supportive of me. He has introduced me to different people, different organizations. They have helped me with nothing but the best kind of care. You know, I'm engaged with like their peer support program where I have the ability to meet different people through Wounded Warrior monthly and go do different activities. Like this month we're doing a wreath laying at the Vietnam Vets Memorial downtown Pittsburgh. So that day, I'm actually going to go to the grave sites of the friends of mine that were killed. It'll be the first time in several years that I was able to do that. And I think the first time since I stopped drinking, stopped putting substances in my body, that I'll be able to do that. So I'm able to have that courage because I'm not alone. Mm-hmm. I'm not fighting this fight alone because I thought I was for so long. Then, you know, I'm involved with Wounded Warrior, doing things like that. Hometown Hero was an opportunity that was presented to me by Roz Pugh. She has been an absolute blessing in my life. We have recently connected, you know, spent several hours the other day putting up banners, having a good time actually.
Yeah.
You know, able to laugh and get to know each other a little bit because, again, it's something for me to give back. It's not just for me.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday we were putting up the banners 2 days ago we were putting up the banners up past Domino's, and that is where my grandpa, my dad, my sister, her fiance Nate, my grandpa's brother, my stepmom's dad. You know, there's a whole line of people that I follow.
Yeah.
You know, for me it was, as they say, family tradition. You know, I watched my grandpa, even in his older age, when we'd go to the Memorial Day parade, I would watch him, and we would sit in the same place right in front of Cassio's every year. But as the parade's coming down, he would stand up and salute, even as he got older. And that is something that, like, I will always remember.
Yeah.
I will always cherish that memory.
Yeah.
You know, and then putting up my dad's banner next to my grandpa and putting mine next to my stepmom's dad. Like, those are things that are going to stand out to me. Mm-hmm. So I get to be a part of, again, something bigger than myself and just give back time.
Yeah.
And that's...
So the Somerset Hometown Heroes, I see on your shirt, is established in 2023.
Yes.
So that's relatively new.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you just got started with that?
I did.
Yeah. So how's it been going?
I love it.
Yeah.
Because I spent last weekend, Saturday, in the snow and rain. We spent a good 4 hours separating all the banners and getting everything together, because each bin we had was going to be on a different street. So we got to do that, and I got to see all these people like Robert Sembauer. I don't want to call him Hank. No, I'm just kidding. And then the Pyatt's, like Walt and his dad Walt. Getting to see them, and the same with like Neil Hoffman and, you know, people that I know, people that I look up to, and I could just look at these banners and think of a story involving that person. Mm-hmm. You know, same with my grandpa. I remember at a young age being able to sit there and listen to my grandpa out at his house on the Weimer Flats, telling me stories about being stationed up in New York and meeting all sorts of different people, and how he met my grandma, and how that whole that story transpired, and it is comical because it's still something I think about today. But, you know, with Hometown Hero, again, I think we come from a community where the service to the nation is not taken lightly. It is something that is worn as a banner of pride.
Yeah,
and
should be.
That's something I want to continue to help with, is never diminishing somebody's role, somebody's ability to do something bigger than themselves. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I will absolutely stand by. So,
there's a lot of, you can listen to a lot of noise and back and forth about why we would be involved in this or that, but you can never take away from the true patriotic nature of somebody willing to serve their country.
Right.
You know, so that's, I think the Hometown Heroes project is awesome. I know that New Centerville just tried to raise some money at the Heritage Barn.
I did see that.
So we'll see maybe some more going up there. Rockwood has some banners up. Yeah, I saw you the other day putting some up in by Domino's there. I actually drove past you. I'm like, hey, there he is.
There's my guy. No, I enjoy it. I enjoy being out. I'm back to this place where I can enjoy getting to know people.
Yeah.
Again, there was a time where I didn't think people would ever want to be involved with me, but now I'm to this point where I'm enjoying collaborating with people, getting to know people, being a part of different things, because one of the core values for the Army was selfless service, and that is giving outside of yourself, and that's something that I do hold true because I watched my family do it all my life.
Well, there's something really genuine about being able to, like you did, be vulnerable and share something that was probably hard, and a time that you went through that was difficult and made mistakes, and to admit that you've made mistakes, and then we are a new creation when we're saved and saved by grace. And the Bible says you put off the old self and put on the new. You become a new creation. And I can see, I was surprised to hear that because I didn't know that about you. But I admire the fact that you emulated what that scripture says. We put off our old self, put on the new when we become saved. Yeah. And a transformation does take place.
Yeah.
And when people see a transformation in your life, there's no greater testimony to what the Lord can do for you than that.
Right.
And so if you never share that or you keep that to yourself, you miss out on giving him the glory for a change that's taken place. And we've all gone through something to where we've been changed and made new. It's that willingness to be changed, So congratulations for you on that.
I appreciate that. Like I've been able to share parts of it, but I've not really shared that. Like I went into detail.
Yeah.
And it's something that I'll probably walk away from this relieved, but at first I'm going to be like, oh, why did I do that?
Well,
that's just my way of processing the whole thing, and I do appreciate your willingness to have me out here today.
Oh yeah, I enjoy talking with guys in the military because it's something that I went through a period in my life where I wanted to do it, and it was a little late for me because I had a wife and 3 kids at home, and I almost did it, and because I do have that patriotic tug in my heart. My heroes are Supreme Court justices, and the guys. I think that I love our country, and I'm really excited about America 250. I'm just excited to be able to be, and we have a lot to be proud of. There's things that, we've made mistakes as a nation, and there's things that you can, in politics and stuff can get ugly and dirty, and there's imperfections, but overall, I just really, really enjoy America. Love the Constitution, the Declaration. I hope every dad reads a little bit of the Declaration of Independence to their kids on July 4th this summer. Of course, I want to have some burgers and hot dogs and see some fireworks. But I listened to a little bit of a podcast the other day, and they were interviewing Neil Gorsuch, Supreme Court Justice.
Yeah,
and he said that he's like, and I hadn't really thought of that. I was looking forward to having this big picnic, and doing all this stuff and celebrating summer and July 4th, but. I have a pocket Constitution above me there.
I see, yeah.
But I hope that people will actually remind each other of why we even get to celebrate this in the first place. And in its inception, it was pure and it was divine and it was given to us. Mm-hmm. So let's not throw it away, please.
I don't think that, at least in this area, that those times go by unseen.
Yeah, right.
Because
you're exactly right. Because we have a lot of hardworking people,
yes.
A lot of patriotic people, and it's the reason that there are hometown heroes.
Yes.
It's the reason that we have wounded warriors. But so, would you? I know you had a rough go afterwards, but you've dealt with it and you've gotten through it, and that is behind you.
Well, I will say this. I think that I dealt with it at the time, but I still think that with any kind of trauma, with any kind of situations like that, it can be lifelong.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't have to change who you are.
Right.
Like, it's part of your story.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not that you forget. But, like, would you say that your experience in the National Guard and serving your country was positive for you?
Without a doubt.
And then would you recommend that to, like, what is going on in some young person's heart today where they're feeling that tug and they're not sure? And what questions would you ask? Or what questions would you ask yourself if you were that kid?
So at that age, at a young age, I kind of knew. So it started for me young, with Camp Cadet. Okay. I was one of the first classes to go through, and I'll never forget it because I'm still friends with Trooper. He's retired now, I believe. Jeff Brock. Mm-hmm. He was kind of the overseer of everything, and that is where it started for me. Plus, growing up, I saw my grandpa, my dad. They all served, so it became something of interest to me. Mm-hmm. But as far as the young people out there, do your research. I mean, every branch has something to offer. There's something different for each branch, each job, each profession you pick in the military. There's something you can get back. Most importantly, though, is the values that it teaches you. Because, like I said, with the Army values, it does teach you how to be a leader. It does. That selfless service thing, that is one of the most important to me today. Mm-hmm. The last one in that is personal courage. For me, showing personal courage is showing up here today, being willing to be vulnerable, and being able to say, I was pretty rough off for a long time, but here's what I have today. So, there's different things that each branch could bring you. Do your research. Talk to a recruiter, because I know they go into high schools and things like that. And a lot of people around here especially probably have somebody in their family or in their circle they could ask, hey, I'm thinking about this. Can we sit down and talk? Yeah. Like my sister who graduated from the United States Naval Academy. That process started way before senior year. So it was a huge buildup. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that is what she wanted to do. That was her goal. She accomplished that goal and has done nothing but succeed. Same with her fiance Nate. He is a West Point graduate and has had a very successful career in the Army. Starts at a young age. Mm-hmm. Some people, it could be a last minute decision. I did meet people in basic training that had to join the Army or something bad was going to happen to them because they were in a lifestyle that was unhealthy. So that is the reality. And that's at 18 years old, 19 years old, I was like, that's real? Yeah. And it was a reality because you get to know these guys and it was true. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just some fabricated story. They were in a position where they had to get out of where they were. And it was very humbling to hear that.
Yeah, yeah. Anything that stands out from your service that is that you were like, I can't believe this is happening right now? It was funny, something that you were like, I did not expect this. Anything that shocked you like that you're like, this isn't what I expected, or that was a funny story?
I think, like I said, the ICE story was probably one of my funniest, but, again, it goes back to the camaraderie we had in Afghanistan, where we laughed, we cried, there were some fights, but at the end of the day, like, we could sit around and pick on each other and talk smack, which is something I became very good at. For me, I say this.
It's a survival mechanism, isn't it?
I say this lovingly, but it comes from my dad.
Yeah.
At a young age, I learned how sarcastic he was, and then even today, when I talk, sometimes he slips out. I'm like, that's something my dad would have said. Yeah. Still would. But, no, I think, again, those stories, I hold those close to heart because that was at the formidable years of my 20s, those friendships were forged.
Yeah.
And
those are good memories.
Oh, we laughed. We would just find joy each day, actually. We would try to find something funny each day.
Did it feel like a job?
No. I loved it at the time, but now my body's like, okay, you need to take... We talked earlier before we started. My body's now telling me when to stop.
Yeah.
Because at 22 years old, I thought I was invincible. I thought I could smoke a pack of cigarettes and then run 2 miles and pass the PT test. There's no way I could do that today.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the stories, though. It's hard to pinpoint one.
Yeah.
It really is.
What do you think's it? What type of people do you, maybe some guys that are still in the military. And so what is the difference, do you think, in the personalities of the guys that, and it might not be a personality thing. It might just be an actual needs thing. But, like, who stays in the military as a career and why? I'm sure it's very nuanced and people get out for all kinds of reasons, and I'm sure people stay for all kinds of reasons. Yeah. But, like, in general, do you know anybody that stayed in and made a career out of this? And
I know several, and a lot of it is again, I think a lot of it boils down to being a part of something bigger than themselves. It is, that part. And the other part is teaching the young people. Like some friends of mine are still they're in leadership positions in the Pennsylvania National Guard, and I think a lot of it stems from being able to pass on what they've learned, what their knowledge is, to the next people, so that those guys, men and women, can pass along that knowledge to the people below them. I think that's just what it is. And I think that's what sets the military aside for me personally, is the ability to do that kind of thing. Because I don't know that you see that in a lot of jobs, but I know for a fact that in the military there is no secrets kept. Like, if this is something I knew or something I learned, here's that knowledge, I'm going to pass it along. I don't, because you don't, with that, it's your life depends on it.
Yeah, you need the people under you to be as good as you.
The learning experience. We had a lot of negative learning experiences. Okay, so I will tell one funny story. So we were, and I just thought of this as we were talking about.
I knew one would come to you.
Oh, this one is a classic. I won't mention any names, but I'm going to send, if you do air this, I'm going to send it to him. So this,
we're airing it.
One of my best friends, when we were deployed, we were on a night mission. We were just a routine patrol around the base just to get acclimated to being out at night. So we are trying to be quiet, I can't even, I laugh about it because I'm picturing it right now. We were just walking around the base and we were told to, like, get down and take a kneel. So we get down, and in the middle of kneeling, this guy lets out the loudest fart I've ever heard. And at that point, we would have been compromised. I still laugh about that to this day. I love you, but that was one of those memories where we couldn't hold it together.
And,
we would have been
and
immediately
when you're in a situation that you can't laugh, it makes it even worse. We've all been in a classroom and somebody does that and you can't laugh and you just...
We would laugh, but so one more story. One of the guys, so Brian Hoover, who was killed, a friend of mine, I'll name him because he'll appreciate this. One of my good friends, Anthony Spangler, he is originally from the Altoona area. He lives out in Harrisburg now, but he was kind of next to me where we lived. And every night we would sarcastically tell, "Good night, Sergeant Hoover," because he kind of talked with a little lisp.
Yeah.
And he would get so mad. I won't say what he would tell us, but out loud. But it was just one of those things that we would laugh for a good 25 minutes because he would get so fired up. You would hear him slamming stuff. But he knew at the end of the day it's because we loved him.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. Talked a lot of smack, but that was another story where we would do it every single day. and he would just, same reaction. Some days he would try not to react, but then 3 minutes later, you would hear just a random yell out of his room because you could hear everything in those tents. But that's just another story I wanted to share quick.
That's funny. Very cool. So for people who don't know, like, what is Hometown Heroes?
So Hometown Heroes is the organization that has been formulated a few years ago to honor and to show the community's love and appreciation for people that have served or are currently serving.
Okay.
So their big push right now is to continue to get banners put up, to continue to get people's names out there. Mm-hmm. You know, I think there was several dozen new ones even this year. So people are still finding out about it. They're still trying to gather more information, and it's still, again, like you said, it's kind of in the infancy stage. Mm-hmm. But it is an organization that is a huge blessing to the community, and it's founded by people that have an appreciation as well as ties into the military. Mm-hmm. So
Hometown Heroes is a national.
I think it is, but I know like Somerset is just.
You have your own.
Yes.
Chapter or own individual organization,
yes.
But it could be part of something. Like Wounded Warriors is
national.
National, you know.
So, I mean, obviously, like, there is, and I was looking the other day, I know Weimer has their own. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what New Centerville Rock would have, but I know, like, Somerset right now is kind of standalone. But again, always looking for more help, volunteers. We do have a 5K coming up next Saturday, starting at the Somerset High School football field. Mm-hmm. If people are interested in going there, we will be displaying all the new banners that were purchased over the last year at the football field at that time. And then by the end of that weekend, those banners will be taken down and put up around the community in Somerset. Mm-hmm. So anybody that has time to spare or wants to come check it out.
Saturday.
Yep, Saturday the 16th, I believe.
Yeah.
And
what time's the race start?
So I think it's 9 a.m. Don't quote me on that. Yeah. I don't have it right in front of me, obviously.
Yeah, just go to Somerset Hometown. We'll post a link, or you can go to their Facebook page. Yep. I think they have it on there.
Everything will be posted on the link. You can sign up that day. There will be plenty of people around to explain what the organization does. Obviously, like I said, I'm probably not the best spokesperson because I'm still relatively new, but I do want to show my appreciation for them because they have been nothing but welcoming for me.
Yeah. Well, you know, you are a hometown hero, and you know, I think that there could be some young folks that would benefit from hearing your story and listening to your experience. You've got a lot to share with them about your experience, from whether it be from considering to join, to what to expect, to how to deal with things coming home.
Yeah.
You know, so you've got a wealth of experience to share, things you've learned, things you've done differently. And ultimately, you know, how important your faith is in dealing with that, and just like you said, being selflessly serving. You know, that's what Christ did for us. He selflessly served. You know, he didn't have to do that. He did it willingly. I think, you know, we have to remember that he willingly served, and somebody who joins the military is willingly serving. You know, so that's awesome. I'm grateful. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for having me
for your
today.
whole family, really. I know your sister is
currently serving
in the Navy. I sat with the Navy recruiters for 2 hours in the Starbucks in Somerset one time.
Oh boy,
that was an experience in itself. You know, I will say, you know, take somebody like Nate with you if you're considered. I think that would have been hugely beneficial for me had I had taken somebody with me. I went by myself. You know, not that my wife wouldn't have went, but you know, it's something that I had to do, and she was fully supportive. You know, because we understand that God's will is God's will, and if that was his will for me, I was willing to do it. In the end, it wasn't. But I think if you take somebody with you that's been there, done that, knows how to navigate the recruiting thing a little bit, because I've heard stories. I won't say horror stories, but I couldn't get straight answers. And
Right.
a guy with a wife and 3 kids at home needs straight answers.
Yeah, because you're not going to want to be
I wasn't looking to be sold.
No.
I wasn't looking to, and they actually didn't try to sell me.
Right.
They said, we're not even going to contact you. They said, because we realize that in your situation, your mind is going to be made up one way or the other, and there's nothing that we can say to you. And I appreciated that, because they said, we're not going to reach out. We know that if you want to do this, you're going to do it. And there's nothing that we're going to say or do to. But
and like for me, I chose the National Guard because a friend of mine, who's now a state trooper, he had done his time in active duty and then joined the National Guard. And I'd see him at the gym, and we got to talking, and he told me who his recruiter was. So I went out and talked to this recruiter. His name's Bill Ferris, and that's when my journey started.
Yeah.
So
I do want to get a recruiter in here.
I don't know anybody currently, but I can help you with that.
Yeah,
I'd
like to sit down with a recruiter and ask all the questions that some 18-year-old kid might want to ask, or
right,
or that we're curious about. And,
right, absolutely.
And just let them field them and give us the information. And they're recruiting. They're meeting their recruiting goals right now, halfway through the year.
Oh yeah.
People want to serve in this administration.
It's not a bad thing.
No. So, but Nate Weimer, I do have a gift for you.
Thank you very much.
This is the.
Thank you.
You're a hat guy.
I am very much so.
Me too. I don't think I've ever not worn a hat on this podcast. People probably wonder what my hair looks. I do have some left, not much. I've got 3 daughters, and I've got a lot of gray in my beard. So
yes,
that says it all.
Yes,
but no, they're good kids. I love them very much.
Well, I appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah.
And if there's anything I can help you with in the future, just let me know.
Yeah, likewise. I think, I will say this. The world tries to actually separate us. Social media was meant to draw us closer or connect.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit of a false connection in a way. These are real connections.
Yes.
Anytime you can, like you said, you enjoyed spending time with, was it Rosalind?
Ross,
that's a real
husband,
connection.
Albert.
And getting to know somebody, getting involved with something, volunteering, you get to make real connections.
Yeah.
You might have 10,000 friends, but are you really friends on Facebook? You know what I mean?
I think people, for me, I can only say I thrive off connection.
Yeah.
If I'm not connected, I am completely miserable, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think for that, it speaks the truth, 100%.
For sure. But it's great I've met you before, but I feel like I've gotten to know you a little bit today.
Absolutely.
And grateful for that. Proud of you.
Appreciate
for
it.
overcoming. Proud of you. Your willingness to share. So it's an honor. Keep doing good things with Hometown Heroes. We'll be looking for you out there hanging up banners. And if somebody has somebody in their family that they want to honor, reach out to Hometown Heroes.
Absolutely. Just reach out to the website, or somebody individually. You can reach out to me, and I can point you in the right direction. Happy to do so, because I think it's an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, very good. Nate Weimer, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.